Hello, and welcome to my TikTok a theory assignment. Today we'll be discussing cultural studies and the founder behind the study, Stuart Hall. We will be running through some concepts that are used within cultural studies to better your understanding about the topic. Throughout the video, we're going to be using one example to help better your understanding of cultural studies, which will be the example of the convoy in Ottawa. So let's get into it. So first, it is important to discuss Stuart Hall and his background. So let's talk about Stuart Hall. He was born in Jamaica and has made huge contributions to the academic world. An article titled Stuart Hall on Doing Cultural Studies, the author speaks about his contributions by saying, open quote, the impact of Stuart Hall's profound, personal, and lifelong commitment to engaged intellectual practices will endure through the work of all of us in the field whom he inspired on both professional and the human levels, close quote. There is no doubt he is an extraordinary man. Now let's talk about the term culture. The way Stuart Hall sees and explains it is that culture is how each person understands different concepts and the meaning each person has towards that concept. So given each person's background, people will see things differently. In the video titled Representation and Media, Stuart Hall, the video explains exactly this by saying, open quote, culture is the way we make sense of, give meaning to the world, close quote. So now let's relate this back to our example of the convoy in Ottawa. So people have different views on the convoy, which was very clear around the time that it happened. We had people that were supporting it and people fueled with anger who were against it. And this is because people all have different beliefs given their background. All right, so another term that we need to discuss is decoding and encoding, which is used a lot within cultural studies and is a huge part of cultural studies. Essentially, what encoding and decoding means is the way individuals see information and how they then process it and interpret it. In an article titled Interpreting, Encoding, and Decoding Models, the author says, open quote, information about the world enters our brains through the senses, is processed and potentially stored and informs our behavior over a large range of timescales. Close quote. So information enters our brain, and after it has been interpreted and broken down, we then decide how we will act. In this model is encoding and decoding, and there is a difference between the both and their functions. In the same article titled above, the author says, open quote, the encoder maps stimuli to brain responses, the decoder maps brain responses to stimuli, close quote. So encoding is when the information first enters our brain, and then the decoding maps break down the meaning of the information. In addition, Hall also introduces the concept of ideology. Just like culture, ideology is a way of understanding the different meanings people give to certain topics. In the article titled The Whites of Their Eyes, the authors say, open quote, rather, we formulate our intentions within ideology, close quote. Ideology is essentially our belief system, which is shaped and influenced by many institutions within society. For example, the media. This is now a good time to switch our focus to the media and apply these terms to the media. An institution like the media influences our ideologies and our culture immensely because the media represents things in different ways. In the same article titled The Whites of Their Eyes, the author says, open quote, racism in the media touches directly the problem of ideology, since the media's main sphere of operations is the production and transformation of ideologies, close quote. The media has a huge influence on our ideologies. It also affects our culture and can potentially change our views on certain topics. Overall, Stuart Hall and cultural studies critiques certain institutions like the media. In an article titled Conjunctures, Crisis, and Cultures, Valuing Stuart Hall, the author talks about the relationship between cultural studies and the media. The author says, open quote, cultural studies, by contrast, took culture and popular culture in particular as a site of political struggle, close quote. So essentially, cultural studies and Stuart Hall says things like the media can cause political struggle and issues within society. The reason why the media influences our culture and ideologies is because the media represents things in different ways. So some people could see things in the media like this, Open quote, a peaceful protest where individuals convey discontent with pandemic policy, public health restrictions, vaccine mandates, and even express unscientific opinions can be seen as a good of Canadian democracy, close quote. So somebody could see this and see the convoy as a positive thing. However, could then see something like this on a media platform that says, open quote, many protesters sported white nationalist symbols like swastikas and signs with violent slogans on them, close quote. So then a person could see that some of the protesters are racist and change their view on the convoy and see it as a negative thing. All right, so this concludes my video. So in summary, Stuart Hall in Cultural Studies looks at many different terms like culture, ideology, encoding, decoding, and that's just the ones that we looked at in this video. There are many more that I didn't have time to get into. But basically what this means is that people have different perspectives on different things because we all have different backgrounds, and things like the media can shift our beliefs and our morals, just like we looked at with the convoy example. Thank you so much for listening to my video, and I hope you learned something from it.